And we're back with the book of Ezekiel. Now, the chapters that we're about to read today, before we start, I just wanted to reiterate what I've said before concerning prophecies. So most times prophecies are not literal, or they are not, or they could speak to more than one thing. And we'll see that as we go ahead. So here, the prophecy against the king of Tyre is what we focus on. The Lord asked Ezekiel to prophesy against the king of Tyre, and he was highlighting his guilt or his sin, which was basically pride. Now, God judges pride, and he called out the king's pride for the things that they had. So they were proud of the endowments that they had, forgetting that the endowments did come from God. So things that like beauty, wisdom, wealth, influence, etc. And like I said, pride corrupts gifts that were legitimately given to us by God. So everything that we have, beauty, riches, influence, charisma, whatever it is a gift of God and should always point back to Him. Pride is whenever you look to yourself for those gifts, or you consider those gifts things that you have or you deserve or you earned, or you use for your own aggrandizement rather than pointing back to God. Now, the ruler or the prince of Tyre considered themselves a god, and God called that out. Because of this, God promised to bring destruction against them, to bring foreigners against them, and the things that they put their confidence in would be destroyed and devastated. Now, what I said in the beginning had to do with the verses from 28:11 to 19. And many people or many scholars believe that Ezekiel wasn't just referring to the king of Tyre at this time, but comparing him to the devil. Now, if you've heard before, or if you've researched, I remember the first time I heard this sermon about how obviously Lucifer was the son of the morning, the one who was in charge of the praise, but then he now, because of pride, and he now started to take God's praise for himself. That was what cast him down. So those verses seem like they were speaking about more than the king of Tyre, which is why I said sometimes prophecy might even be, about something else that is related to something. And I think that that's the case here, because of pride, the devil was cast out of heaven for trying to exalt himself to the position of God. Some believe that Satan even possessed the king of Tyre and was trying to use him to live out his intentions, because at the time Tyre was that land that everyone came to, for trade, it was just that hub, you see. So it's very possible, but it could also be like a metaphor. Anyway, take it whichever way you will, but personally I like to see prophecies as meaning more than what we think that they do. Now, the prophecy against Sidon was a promise of plague and bloodshed, and because they treated Israel with contempt. And again, God promised her restoration and to restore Israel from exile to a land of safety. In the prophecy against Egypt, God compared Pharaoh to Leviathan. Remember, Leviathan is that monstrous, scary sea creature, and he compared him to him as a monster that is among the streams of the Nile. He was obviously prideful and started to act like he was the creator of the Nile or the owner of the Nile. And God promised to fish out the big fish with all his little fish, that's his people, clinging to him, and toss him into the desert, and he will become food for wild animals and birds. Egypt's punishment was for all the ways that they pretended to help Israel, but ended up entrapping them and torturing them, and their punishment would come via Babylon through King Nebuchadnezzar. But afterwards, God promised that he will restore them, that's Egypt, as he had said in Jeremiah 19. From verse 29, chapter 17 to 21, it indicated that the siege against Tyre by Babylon, by Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, wasn't successful, but God promised them a reward in Egypt. So they didn't get Tyre, but God was going to give them Egypt as their reward. It was given to them as a reward for Tyre, and that's Babylon, because God's word, as we know, never falls to the ground. So he knows why that siege didn't go the way it did, but he gave him something else, which I remember King Nebuchadnezzar was his instrument for judgment at the time. So he was making sure that he did what he needed to do and gave him all the lands that he had promised to punish. In the lament against Egypt, God promised to destroy not only Egypt, but all the countries that supported it. God promised to break Pharaoh's arms and scatter the people amongst the nations. So what did I learn about God from these chapters? God hates pride. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Those are the words in Proverbs 3:34. We've read that before. Very popular and powerful verse. Pride is based on a lie. And that lie is that the person who is prideful believes that they are powerful, wise, and godlike. And all these things are lies, because only God has that power. All we have, we've gotten from God. God is our source of everything. Everything. No one created themselves, and they cannot create anything. So pride is just a lie. God is our source and is the object of our praise and our gratitude. So everything we have should point to God. So today, examine yourself. If there's anything that is prideful there, ask God for help and forgiveness and get rid of pride. Thank you for joining me today. Look forward to sharing with you tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good day.